Welcome, 10 p.m. with Galinsky. It only happens here 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday. Today we got a great guest, Ajay Naidu, wonderful actor, wonderful person, and a neighbor of mine. But before we do that, really quickly, once again, Nuchas, Empanadas, nuchas.com, putting the show on the map. Please order some nuchas when you get a chance. We are being simulcast by the Stage Network through their social media accounts. Watchstage.com is the site. Great archive of old theater, new theater, really good stuff. If you email me private at galinskynow@gmail.com, galinskynow@gmail.com, I will send you a password for 1 free month of the Stage Network, watchstage.com. Also want to thank actortrade.com, incredible app and website. Check them out. And then also I want to thank VIPtalentconnect.com for making this happen tonight. Let's welcome to our show tonight's guest, who I'm really thrilled is with us. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Ajay Naidu. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Robert. What's up? Yeah, you too.
Great to see you.
Yeah, like
the setting I'm in is a coffee shop, and I customize my background for every guest based on who they are, how we know each other. And you and I always bump into each other at 9th Street Espresso here in the East Village. So figured, okay,
the best.
It's a great coffee, right?
Yeah, the best.
Some real quick shout outs to our chatters, and then we'll get right into it. Turko Ono is here. Let's see who else is here. Michael Swisskay says, good evening, AJ and Robert. Diane Lieb is here. Elizabeth Harder, young actress. Amy Alt is here. Cindy Hernandez. A big crowd tonight. Zulima, Tiffany Ray, Tom Cavallaro, Jay Festa, Diane Lieb, Ron Cephas Jones. Do you know Ron?
Oh my God. I'm honored that he's even in the space. I'm shuddering with
it's amazing.
Love.
He's amazing. I remember Ron and I, hey Ron, when he was doing a lot of spoken word down in the East Village back at the New Eurekan times.
Ron Cephas Jones is a national treasure. I was lucky enough to get him in my movie in a cameo. I kiss his dirty shoes. He's
and was this
one of the greatest actors of our generation.
Oh wow, high praise. I'm gonna Ron doesn't know this, but I'm gonna reach out to him and see if he wants to be on the show.
I hope you get him.
Thomas White's with us, Rob Schwartz is with us, and Jack Fuller from the West Coast. Wow. So, Jay, let's get out of the way the iconic film one of the iconic films. I mean, SubUrbia is one of them, and I think K-Pax is as well. But Office Space seems to be one of those films. And when I was talking with Gary Cole out in LA, he said, "Yeah, you never know. You do the thing, and then who knows what's going to happen." So, did you feel it when you were making it? Did you feel like?
No. Look, it felt like it was fun and like good, and we had a really great rapport, and everyone was having a blast and all that. But the studio was trying to shut that movie down again and again. I mean, that kind of humor, that whole kind of new style of sort of office dark comedy drama was like that people weren't doing that yet. It was kind of one of the first of its time. So, they said that we were all unfunny, that we were all ugly. There was a lot of like no. And when it came out into theater, I mean, they pulled it after a week. It was only after some time. When all the young IT people started realizing that that's what they were living and that's what they were going to have to look forward to, that it then kind of built a cult following stuff. I knew this movie was kind of getting big when 4 years afterwards, like some big dude on like on a ski lift was like, "Yay, man, it's you." And I was like, who is this? And then one time I was standing out in front of
the Go ahead.
Like, but I mean, like the other time I knew it was kind of interesting is when, like, one time I was standing out front of this audition, and across the street was this like cigar shop where there was a bunch of like serious toughs, like that looked like they were connected, like hanging out. They're like, "Hey, you come over here, come over here." And I was like, "Oh no, what's going on. And they're like, come in here. And they brought me into the cigar shop, and they're like, don't be scared. Don't be scared. And I was like, okay. They're like, we just wanted to let you know we're fans, and we thought that the way you did the print, it was very authentic.
You did the printer.
So yeah, and they're like, let us know if you need anything. And I was like, okay, good to know. But yeah. So yeah.
And this wasn't around. This had nothing even to do with your appearance on Sopranos either, right?
No, actually, no, it didn't. No, there's the moment. This is Office Space. But no, it was a super fun. I mean, Austin is a great town. I had shot another movie down there a few years earlier, SubUrbia. And it had boomed much bigger by that time, and but still we had no idea what that movie was going to do. But it is, I am grateful that it it resonates with people in the way that it does, because work is hard, man. Work is hard.
Oh, yeah, man. And showing up to those places where the carpet is wall to wall, and the fluorescent is wall to wall.
Poor guys, man. It really does. It really does fuck with your brain. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Cool. And I'm really grateful for that one.
I was working at a startup in the 90s. So, we had all that nerd talk and, that closing in on you. Katha Cato just joined us. You know Katha?
Kathy from school. That's great, man. Yeah.
Queens World Film Festival.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Hi, Kathy. Hi, yeah, sorry. She's wonderful.
She is.
Our film won Best of Fest in the year that it was there. She's a great lady. Sorry, I got confused. There's another Kathy from school that.
Yeah, no problem. Plus, our sound is bouncing back and forth in an odd way. We're also being joined by Wally Green, who's a brilliant ping pong professional.
Oh, cool. My family plays badminton, so I grew up in badminton. I don't mean to equate the two in any sense, but somehow we always get lumped into recreational games as opposed to serious sport. So.
Last shout outs before I go to another question. Winnie Maria is with us. Tyler Geck is with us. Joanna James, Simone Valmont, Pamela Martell, Callie Greenberg, Heather Prescott, Paris Jania. Damn, they're just flowing for you. So you went to ART, Harvard Theatrical. So a couple questions about that. Was it hard to get into that program? What was that like? And then what was the program itself like in a nutshell?
Well, first of all, when I got out of high school, I wanted to go to I didn't know that I wanted to go to conservatory until I got out of high school, where many of my friends knew that they wanted to go while they were there. And I auditioned for Juilliard and didn't get in, and I auditioned for the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and I got called back, but I didn't get in. But then I was wondering, because I didn't have SATs, and I didn't have I was working quite a bit as an actor when I was younger, and I didn't know really what to do. But then a bit later on, I was in a production of The Good Person of Szechuan with Cherry Jones. And she had just come from being a company member up there. And she's like, oh, well, ART at Harvard, they just need an essay and an audition. And I was like, oh, I can write. And I think I can act, or I'm starting to learn to act. I really want to learn to get better. But anyway, I wasn't going to apply because I didn't know the only question you had to answer is why you wanted to be an actor. And, I waited and waited, and nothing was coming to me that didn't seem shallow. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I like it because I like to, I like to get clapped up. You know what I mean? Or like, I like people to like me, whatever. But then, like about 2 days before the deadline, I woke up in the morning and I had an answer, and it had to do with the fact that when I was very young, my parents had read to me quite a bit. I was really fortunate; my whole family read to me, and the stories kind of spun into like uncontrollable dreams, and I had to, in one way or another, whether that was through music or art or dance or film or acting or whatever it was, I knew that I was going to have to tell stories, and it just seemed that at that point, that was the most practical application of that, as I had been acting and studying for that
You got a question?
But having been there, the training was extremely rigorous. It was really great at that time. They did not go to Moscow for the first 6 months of their training, which they did later on. And I think that for the period of time that I was there, it was probably the penultimate group of teachers and staff, and the sort of techniques and things that they exposed us to have all come into play with everything I do every different time. The toolbox is irreplaceable from that kind of training. And I highly suggest, if you can get in, to go. And yeah, it's very competitive to get in, but the chance favors the prepared mind, and I was ready to go. It had been a minute, but I was ready at that time.
In the chat, Janie Leo just joined us, Samantha, Tarsha, Justin, welcome guys, Deborah Jean Templin, another actress and singer. James Turcott has a question. Oh, Elizabeth Harder says, I love badminton, first of all. And
cool.
Wally Green, the ping pong player, says, well, that's a great sport too.
Sorry.
Hey, it's good. Couple of Harvard questions. Turco Ona wants to know, what was your favorite non-acting experience at Harvard, and what house did you live in?
Because we weren't part of the undergraduate university, and we were part of like a graduate program, we had our own apartment. But my favorite house was Adam's house. If she needs to know which house I liked the most, I liked that one because it was probably the most underground, sort of cool. My favorite non-experience was sitting in Harvard Square and just spacing out, because I thought to myself, I could do this forever, because at the time my mind was opening so much, and I was breathing deep, and I was doing all these incredible exercises, and like my perception was changing, even within my physiological perception and all that was changing. And I was at that moment, I was so happy to figure out that I could just sit there and pluck a character from the trees and just embody that. And I was like, oh man, if I sit here and drink coffee for the rest of my life and watch people go by, this was it. I mean, fall in Massachusetts is like one of the most beautiful things, ever. And there and studying that and having your brain challenged, I mean, that sunny and cold, it was all perfect. So it's hard to say one particular experience, but the general experience was very, very magical.
Michael Swiske wants to know, do you know Roger Brustein? Was he there at the time?
Robert Brustein. Yeah. Is that right? Is that a typo from him?
I've been a typo, yeah.
Yeah, I do know Robert Brustein, and we were very close. We're still, I mean, he is, he ended up marrying the woman that was my patron for the time that I was there. So she used to force him specifically to come see me and things. And he was always like, he always kind of had a sort of soft spot for me. On my way into school, I was getting ready to do a play. I was getting ready to do Suburbia at Lincoln Center. And then I didn't do it because I was getting ready to go off to school. But Eric Bogosian happened to be coming up to school to perform on the main stage there. And when he got up there, Robert Brustein and Eric Bogosian had a discussion in front of me about whether or not I was going to go do Suburbia. And Robert Brustein said, no, he's going to stay here and study. And all this kind of stuff. I didn't make that decision. Robert made that decision for me to Eric Bogosian. I didn't know later on when I got out of school I was going to do the movie, but it was, yes, I know Robert Brustein very well.
So you're classically trained, and I'm naive about Harvard's program. Was it purely for the stage, or was it also a film acting as well?
No, you don't train specifically for film or theater. You train to act. Yeah. You train in techniques and stories and action and contradiction. Gotcha. And style. So the only difference and sort of thing that we discussed about that is that when you're playing for the stage, the energy is going this way, and when you're making all the same choices you would in a film, or vice versa, except that when you're working in a film, the energy goes this way, and the thoughts is what they want to see. So but you're still making the same choices. You're still playing actions, trying to get things. Theater is happening out there. The film is happening out there. It's not happening up here. So.
And that's great for all of we had a lot of young actors that watched this show. So that's another great little tip for everybody to understand if they don't
Right.
know that yet. Scooter Milvey just joined us. Diana Prasad, Carolyn Dixon, the Andrew Einhorn is with us. Tammy T is with us.
Cool.
You got an early start with one of my favorite, what's the word? Commodities? No, one of my favorite genres. I don't know. The ABC After School Special.
Yes, that is not my very first project. The first film I did, I got from an open call. It was opposite Michael Keaton, and it was because my teacher in school, whose son was this brilliant actor called Adam Baldwin in the '80s, and he's still a great actor. Not to say that he was he's not related to the Baldwins. It's Adam Baldwin from My Bodyguard, Full Metal Jacket, and all that. His mother was my teacher. I was a teacher's pet. We were doing current events. But yeah, that's the film. And she took me in after school for this open call where there was like about 1,500 boys, and you know, about 5,000, like 1,500 kids, like at the Holiday Inn City Center, and they just kind of walked down the line going, "You go home, you go home, you go home, you stay, you go home, you go home, you stay." And then that happened for like the next 4 days. They kind of walked down the line, looked at everybody, and kind of like got everybody out. And after like 30 something auditions, like way later, after I had gone to LA to meet Michael Keaton and, you know, got fit and all this kind of stuff, I was sitting with the writer, the director, and the main producer in one of my last auditions for it. And they were like, "Well, we think you're really talented, but, you know, we're thinking of using Sissy Spacek to play the mother." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. That's great." Because I was like 11 years old. And they were like, well, that means we can't use you. And so I just like, I don't know what overcame me, but I just started weeping uncontrollably, you know, I was like crying, and they were like, "Oh, you know, you're really talented, you know, you should tell your mom that, you know, you should do that." I was like, "My mom told me not to come. She told me not to get my hopes up. I don't know what I'm doing here." They're like, "Oh, well, then you should tell your agent." And I was like, well, "What's an agent?"
Wow.
So but anyway, they were just all sitting there in silence. And after, I don't know what overcame me, but then I got really mad, and I was like, "Well, if I'm so talented, then you should find a new mom." And I like stormed out, you know what I mean? And
Nice.
like I was like blind with tears, and I walked past my mom. My mom's like, "Jay," you know, like that. And then like I get to the elevator, and I feel these hands on me, turn around, and it's the big old producer, and he's like, "Listen, I think you're terrific. I'm gonna find a new mother. I'm gonna give you the part." And I got the part. So I kind of cried my way in, and that was the first gig I did, and that was like a big feature. And I got like, it was opposite Michael. They got Maria Conchita Alonso to play the mother. But then I did that, and I went to Brazil and shot a film for about 7 months with Charles Durning and Peter Horton, and then I was back and I was doing different things, and then I got an offer to do the After School Special, which won an Emmy, where I played a brain cancer victim, and Anson Williams, who played Potsy in Happy Days, directed it. And Rennie Santoni, the great Rennie Santoni, played my dad. In those days, I was playing Latino a lot. So
when at that age, that young age, were you starstruck at all, or were you just kind of like, I don't know?
I'm trying to get back to that kind of level of abandon. I mean, I played really. I mean, I just would just like let it fly. You know, I didn't have any preconceived notions about anything, you know. I was never starstruck. I mean, I was never starstruck about meeting any of those guys at that time. Yeah. I mean, like now I get all bugged out about meeting people, but like, you know, no, I didn't think of it at all. I thought they were like another thing. Like they were almost like fairy dust. And I was just like hanging out. I was like, I'm not going to hang out with these people. They're just there.
Gotcha. Got to go to the chat. Samrat Chakrabarti.
Samrat Chakrabarti, one of my dearest friends.
It says, "Art in the house. Much respect, AJ. I went to art because of you, brother."
ART.
ART.
Yeah, American Repertory Theater is the name of
Yeah, up in Harvard. Stefan Robert says, "Hello, cool picture." Bill Green says, "Haha, this is great."
Glad to see Bill.
Stefan wants to know, crying does help. Should I cry on my next audition?
I don't know. I mean, maybe, especially if it's a comedy. Yeah.
Kenny Flores just joined us and is digging it. Justin D'Amelia loves Happy Days. Callie Greenberg has a question. Are you into the drum and bass scene?
Callie, yes, I'm into the drum and bass scene. I have been since the get-go. Actually, that saved my life away from acting for a long time. I mean, I grew up in Chicago and had been starting to go to London quite a bit in the early 90s, and very much into that sound. My dear friend in Chicago, I was in a heavy nerdification process at ART, and when I got out, I picked up back where I left off as the rave scene had continued and all that, and drum and bass was just kicking off. And I mean, I knew that I had to be listening to that all day, every day for a long time, because it was a whole new window in my brain opened up. And I then started dancing and performing in that medium, and ended up in London at the Anoka parties with Talvin Singh via other people. And then I started writing words for him and several other cool drum and bass collectives. And started one here in town with my dear friend Karsh Kale called Bhom Shankar that ran for a while. It was a rotating group of artists, and we did live drum and bass. And I was the dancer and MC and sort of impresario of that. We had the weekend party at the first Friday night party at Joe's Pub for the first year it was open. And we did live drum and bass. And yes, I am into drum and bass.
Got it. Great.
Yeah.
I remember in the 90s, there was a online station called Street Sound that had, Street Sound?
Yeah, I do remember it, yeah.
They had a show called Desi Vibe, which is a common.
Desi Vibe, yeah. Old friends on there, old friends making stuff on there.
Yeah. Part of the whole collective that was producing shows.
Asian Underground forever, man, and Asian Massive too.
So. Bill Green. Bill has a question.
Hi, Bill. He's a dear man.
Before he does, Mr. Erskine Childers.
Kid, my dear man. Yes.
Good love you, AJ. We need any memories you have of being on the set with Tony Hopkins. Is this Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to work with him. I worked with Julianne Moore on the movie. They're talking about Hannibal, because Anthony Hopkins, but I will say, when my friend finally hipped me to the fact that Hannibal Lecter, that Anthony Hopkins is doing the lizard all the way through Hannibal Lecter, it made perfect sense to me, And I was like, oh, that's really great, really great animal work. He's totally reptilian, you know what I mean? So he's doing like
lizard. The lizard. Gotcha. Destiny Gay just joined us. Jamie Leo has a question, a craft question, AJ.
Yes, let's hear it.
And he said, do you have a favorite script memorizing technique?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't memorize words per se. I memorize rhythms and intentions. And so the thing to try to memorize, for me anyway, is not what you're saying, but what you're trying to do, and also what the inherent rhythm of that particular style and language is. I lock into rhythms and I lock into sounds, and that always seems to, like, if I know that there's a double S coming up, I'll always remember that it's Silly Sam said something. So, I'll always the onomatopoetics of things, and trusting the word to inform the trigger and the trigger to inform the word. So it's not about memorizing it. It's about knowing it inherently.
Got it. Great. Love it. Thank you. Let's see here. It's getting filled up here. All right. So Stephen Robert says, hey, AJ, we're about the same height. Can I be your stand-in?
Sure, pal.
Lauren Alvarez says, love you.
Love her too. Hi, Lauren.
Dipti Brahmankar says, that's so
genius
cool.
Playwright. A genius playwright. Yeah.
Growing Elm says, lovely to see my brother. He's been very humble about his dance abilities. It looks like you got a little room behind you there. You think?
No, man, you can't get. No. My little boys sleep downstairs. I'll get loose for him at an appropriate time. Speaking
of that, so you've got a son and you're married, and your wife is an actress and she's a working actress, just like you.
Yes.
Successful. What's it like living in a house? I mean, you're in it, so you can't really maybe helicopter above it, but you got two actors now in the house.
Yeah, I think that it's been the best thing for me, because we help each other. We're as truthful as we possibly can be with each other without hurting each other's feelings. We help each other through things. We putting each other on tape almost every other night, and the stakes of those things towards our family are important. So it's it can be hard. The only real hard part is time, budgeting time, because I mean, and the other thing is that, you know, my wife is a genius. She's one of the best actors I've ever seen. I mean, like, she does magic that I can't understand, right? So I think it's important to be inspired by the other person's work. I mean, that'd be pretty hard if, you know, all the time you're walking on eggshells around your wife. You're like, okay, you did okay. You know what I mean? Oh, it's okay. Yeah, but it's not like that around my house. I mean, she blows my mind regularly with her ability. So
that's beautiful.
Brilliant writer and all this kind of stuff. So I don't get to say anything. I just get to say, like, you know, I like that, or maybe that has to change. You know, I don't. Gotcha. But to me, I just don't see. I can't really think of another kind of a profession where the person could be at the same, understand the same stakes, understand the same level. So to me, it's been very, very good. I mean, hopefully when actors are together, it's symbiotic, and when it's not, it's pretty tough. So hopefully it can be symbiotic.
Sounds it. Destiny Gay says that's amazing. Becky Savelle is in the house. Penny Bowler just showed up. I'm going to go over here to another chat window. Let's see here. Sorry, it's taking me a second. There's so much action going on here. Growing Elm says this is Vani, by the way.
Oh, hi.
Bill Green says, make him dance, Mr. Galinsky.
No.
The Raj Huda says, hi, buddy. How was it doing a powerful role in Blind Spot recently?
Blind Spot was a blast. I mean, I got to be like, you know, an arch criminal of the worst sort. Like, I mean, like, there's nothing that he does that isn't like badass to the 12th. You know, he always has like 2 guns. His whole main thing was 2 of everything. Like, he had like 2 knives, 2 golden guns. You know, he did mad drugs. He was like a crazy. So I mean, that role was just nothing but fun. I mean, like, the more cheesy, crazy I could be, the more they loved it. You know what I mean? It was like being part of a comic book.
You had sound like you had a lot of freedom there. That's great.
Oh yeah, plus the creator Martin Jarrow is a dear friend, and he's absolutely brilliant about bringing people in that have an incredible sort of rapport and vibe towards each other. A very supportive and amazing group of people on that show.
Becky Savelle wants to know: do you prefer the process of making a film or the process of theater?
I prefer both of them equally, depending on what I'm working on and how much money is involved. Yeah, I mean, whether or not I'm getting, I mean, not to do with whether or not I'm getting paid necessarily, but how high end the production is, because the less money they have, the more blood you let. You know what I mean? So, and that's just an understanding. It's not to say that I don't want to do those incredible projects. It's just that, like, you know, you can tell right away, you know, how much of yourself you're going to have to give towards things like that. So I like them both for different reasons.
We're close to our half hour, and I'm going to check in with the chat to see if they want us to continue on a little longer. Would you be okay if they give us some thumbs up? Cool. So then, in order to do that, I need to kick off our overtime with a game called 5 Objects. I'm going to show you 5 objects that are in my house. I've noticed because of the 2 months of quarantining here. You know, I got this, I got that. And just give us a quick reaction, your thought, it's a story, a feeling. So the first object is a purple sequin shirt.
The first thing that comes to mind is the Wiz. The Wiz, because somehow I don't know. I equate that, and it makes me want to say, so you wanted to see the wizard, and that's what that reminds me of.
Second object, a tin of tea. Oh, it's green, so you can't really see it.
Whoa, that's weird. It's kind of invisible.
Right?
Well, right now it reminds me of like the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter, because it's invisible. But I will say it also makes me think of my father, because that was my father's defense mechanism whenever something went wrong, is to be like, let's have tea. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what that reminds me of.
Next object is a dictionary.
The dictionary. This always reminds me of Malcolm X. Because he's like, let's start at the first word.
Right.
So
next object is a fan.
My son was reading Ferdinand the Bull earlier this week, and it reminds me of Spain. It reminds me now it's taking me even further to the nudist colonies in Cadaqués, Spain.
Wow.
Where people would be like buck naked and have a fan.
Great answers. Here's the last object.
Oh, the old-timey guitar. It's beautiful. It makes me just want to say, Johnny, be good tonight.
Johnny, be good. All right. Let's get some more questions out of our chatters because they are dying here to get more. Vinny Gottschall wants to know, have you ever done comedy improv? And if how does it compare to acting in movies and plays?
Thanks. Good question, Vinny. I have done some in the early days. I trained in it. Most Chicago people do as a result of, the Second City roots and all that kind of stuff. And I'd say it's a completely different animal. I'm terrified of comedy improv. I'm not afraid to improvise as long as I'm not supposed to get a laugh. You know what I mean? By happenstance and by accident, sometimes I get a laugh improvising. Sure. I don't think it compares at all. I think that you have to be functioning on a much more mercurial and receptive level to do comedy improv, and sometimes that muscle as an actor, sometimes I'm just not up to speed with that. I can do comedy that's written. You know what I mean? So because I can free myself through the form, but when it's unscripted and you're just not supposed to, you're supposed to not say no, and if it works, do it again, and all these kind of things. It's really hard to not say no. You know what I mean? Or to say yes, and it's really tricky. So I commend anyone who does that and say that, no, man, that's another animal. Although those skills play a very important part in creating organic stuff in and around deconstructing text. So.
We got a question from Bill Green, and this is kind of a serious question here. You were obviously very upset when Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away. What influence did Philip Seymour Hoffman have on you?
Well, I mean, beyond the fact that I loved him dearly and that he looked after me and took me under his wing and actually kind of like helped me do some of my own personal work and was a nice man. The thing I learned from him is that you would think that when you meet someone and you disarm them, that you can sort of understand their mystery and understand their mystique or their magic or the things that the carapaces and layers of their understanding and how they craft their stuff. But I was never, I was barely scratching the surface of what the thoughts and the vibrations that Phil was creating. He was an actor that functioned on a different level and stayed in it and stayed committed and was all about it all the time whenever I was with him. So when he didn't like something, it was very, very, very frightening. And when he liked something, you felt like you couldn't do any wrong. You know what I mean? Because his choices were so unique and incredible and shimmering and with myriad internal choices, and that he and things that he was doing because he was on such an incredible level. I think the thing that he taught me was that, you don't have to talk about your choices because it takes the power off them.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's the thing that really stuck with me from his is that you don't have to share what you're doing. You know what I mean? You can keep that to yourself. And I think that somehow I remind myself of that when I'm going into things. Sometimes it works and they're like, wow, how did you come up with that? And it's like, I don't want to tell you. You know what I mean? It just I didn't come up with it. It just happened, So.
Great.
Sorry, that's a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That it deserves a long answer, and you made sense, new sense to me.
Thank you.
Siraj Huda is with us.
Great pioneer. Hi, Siraj.
CM just said, I came in late. You may have answered this, but do you try to procure your own work?
I look, I don't turn away from anything people are trying to talk to me about. I give everything a fair shake, even if it's not coming through the usual channels. I try to have a look because you never know where the next cool thing is coming from. But procure my own work, by that, when I know that I'm doing the right thing is when I know that what's inspiring me. that's procuring your own work, knowing what you would like to do, knowing what you would want to do, because it's strange. I mean, not to get all like Julia Cameron about it, but like when you start to vision something, or when you start to see something that you think you'd like to do, or a project you'd like to do, you start to move towards it and it sort of moves towards you. So procuring my own work, yes, I procure my own work by virtue of trying to keep my well filled with what I think I could do next, and what I'd like to do next. And somehow I end up vibrating towards that.
Speaking of your own work, and again, Bill Green says, make him dance, Mr. Galinsky. Speaking of your own work, somebody talk about your film Ashes. And we got a couple of images here.
Right.
So what was this film about, and what's inspired you to write or put this film?
This was like a long project. That it's my first film. It's my first, it's like kind of I like to, not to compare myself with myself anywhere near Stanley Kubrick, but it's kind of like my fear and desire. It's my first experience as top to bottoming the film as director, actor, everything. And it took a very long time. And it was initially about my experiences with my sister, who was manic depressive schizoid disorder. And for a time we were living together in Chicago, and I was running around with some sort of small time hustlers, and they weren't real gangsters. They were kind of just pretending to be. I was smoking a lot of weed and doing a lot of different things. And that was a particular moment that I wanted to write about. My sister later committed suicide, and it was the film was almost, it was an exercise in therapy for me for a while. And then later on, when I was involved heavily in a music scene, all of a sudden the soundtrack came to me, and there is no cinema without sound. And because it was such a specific sound, and I'm talking about the Asian underground and the Asian massive scene, that music kind of forced the story out of me in such a way that I combined that part of my life and the later part of my life into a sort of some people call it some people call it like a death poem, but really it was like a requiem sort of film. And it was hard. It was really, really tough. And I faced a lot of different things. I lost my investors like a week before we went. I got in arguments, lost a lot of friends along the way. It took way too long to do it. Could barely get myself to it was all the typical things that happen with a movie you don't have the money for. But it did come out very, very beautifully. And, also, there was things in it that just didn't work, but that's par for the course, Huh. But I definitely know what I'd do differently next time. That's for sure. All the way through.
For you guys watching, go check it out. Ashes. More stuff here in this chat here. Respect 647 AJ from Darren Aramoni.
Yeah, word.
Kirsten Wynn says, talk about your badminton career. So you had a badminton career?
No, I did not. My father and my brother were both, extremely incredible badminton players. And I played till I was about 16 and kind of cut out of it, for a while. I just recently wrote a movie about my father and brother, which is a badminton film, but it's more of like a nostalgic 80s film. My father was an incredible player.
Not going to be like Dodgeball. Wow.
No, it's not like Dodgeball. It's much more much more of an immigrant story.
Bill Green wants to know, what actor, if any, have you dreamed about working with, and who you'd still love to work with?
Oh, that's a really great question. Now, I've worked with, I didn't know that I wanted to work with the people that I've ended up working with, and I've ended up having to work with. I've worked with all the people that I've wanted to work with, and I don't know who's next to work with. I need to know what the story is before I could tell you who I'd love to see in it with or be in it with.
I think there's some chatters in the show here in our audience that are excellent actors that are going to be potentially that next fun, exciting person you connect with. I have
That's really sweet. I was just getting ready to whatever I'm working on usually is hopefully my favorite thing. I try to get in lots of things, but I never get in anything bad, which is kind of a great blessing in disguise. I mean, it would be great to get in bad stuff because I make a lot more money, but I never end up in it. I don't end up in it. I was just getting ready to do a production of Waiting for Godot here in the city with Mike Shannon and Paul Sparks and Jeffrey Beal, and I was so excited right before this all happened. So, and we were just getting ready to go into rehearsal. It was going to be a really star spring, and it was a plum role. I was getting ready to play Pozzo, which would have been extraordinary.
Do you still write a lot? Do you write plays?
Yeah, I do write. As I said earlier, I wrote this movie about my father and my brother called Shuttlecocks, and I am conceiving in the early days of conceiving a series based on the life of the Indian warrior monk Bodhidharma, who brought Shaolin, who brought Kalaripayat, which is a South Asian martial art, to China, which then became Tai Chi, which then became Kung Fu, which is he's the birth father of martial arts, and fought his way through the Khyber Pass and dealt with bandits and all this kind of stuff. So it's a great story. So I'm conceptualizing a series about that. And I'm writing, and I write things when they come to me. I just wrote a freestyle book with my son called The Bug War, about a landlord that burns down a building for the rent money, or for like
insurance
money, and because all the gardens in our neighborhood are the remnants of that. And Galinsky, you live right there, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, but he and I kind of composed this story, and I'm hoping to have a dear friend of mine illustrate it, but I didn't mean to, but we wrote it together. So that's the last thing I wrote.
Cool. Questions are still piling up over here, so it's great. This is one of the easiest shows in the world. I never have to think of a question. I just got to go look over here. I got a teleprompter here. Dancing Rena says, you've been an inspiration to me and so many. All love to you, Ajay. Will you write and perform another solo piece like you did with Darwaza in 2001 at the Labyrinth?
I love Rena. She's one of my dearest friends. She was in my film Ashes. She played my girlfriend in my film. She's an incredible dancer, great musician. I'm honored for her question. I am conceptualizing a solo show for the Labyrinth that I hope that I can pitch to them and that I hope they'll do. But it is not an original piece. I can say that. Well, basically, I'm for a long time, since I was really young, I've been obsessed with a particular book, and I memorized it as a kid, and I used to do it all the time. But as I grew older, I started to look exactly like the author and behave like the author. And now I think, and he is the narrator of the book. So it's very strange. But it's Lafcadio the Great, the Lion That Shot Back by Shel Silverstein, and I'm going to try to play Uncle Shelby in it. So, but that's the one that I'm trying to. That's this next solo piece.
You guys have the beard and the skin tone, but you're much more handsome than that guy.
I don't say that. I think he's very handsome. So
he's all right. Next to you, all right, questions. So we're coming toward the end here. So I'm going to push you to, so we can get everybody's questions in, to see if we can answer them a little shorter, just because I want to make sure that everybody gets paid attention to. Do you have a pinnacle person that you'd like to portray? I think you might have mentioned it.
I just said it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shel Silverstein. Yeah.
That was Becky Savelle's question. Becky has another one. Do you become consumed with the role so much that it's hard to deal with day-to-day life?
No, I don't. I've never had that. I do think that from the outside, people tell me that I do that.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel like that. I'm always giving myself a break. I'm a lazy person. You know what I mean? Like, not lazy, but I like to luxuriate in things. I love it when I have too long to play something, because then, I like to let it sediment.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Hashim Trends is in the house. Hashim is an entrepreneur and a reality TV star. Wally Green says, I'm sure most people start acting when they are young. When is it too late to become an actor?
I don't think it's ever too late to become an actor.
I agree. Yeah. Diana Prasad is echoing your thoughts about money. She said an artist has to eat. I agree. Callie Greenberg, hashtag Ferdinand and the Bull. Becky Savelle, did you always know you would be an actor? What was your earliest memory of acting?
Right. I did not know. I didn't always know, but I knew pretty young. But my earliest memory of acting, my sister did this neighborhood production of Romeo and Juliet, where she played guitar, and we did it in this like alley park, and I played Tybalt, and I was like 5, and everyone was
Wow.
that's my first time. But the second time was I played Puck in my 7th grade Midsummer Night's Dream, and the bell rang in the middle of the performance. But my next line was, "Fairy King, attendant Mark, I do hear the morning lark." And when I did that, there was a standing ovation,
Really?
and it was like there was something in me that was like, "Oh, this is good."
You feel that, right?
I felt that, and I think that was the real kind of bug.
Great. Michael Swiskay, acting is an art of reception and response, was a lesson from a past acting teacher. Okay. Hashtag Philip Seymour Hoffman. Um, let's see. James Turcott, do you follow an organized religion? If not, how would you describe your spirituality?
Yeah, I grew up as like a traditional Hindu. My mother comes from a very old Indian family, and my father didn't really even know his grandparents. But as a Hindu, you can be anything you want, you know. Um, and I, you know, I believe in the personification of forces, and putting them, taking on those personas. You can take them and you can try to emulate the Godhead, which is good orderly direction. So yeah, I am spiritual. I believe in God, and I was raised as a Hindu.
Got it. Heather Prescott says, grateful for you hosting this platform, Robert. This is really sweet of you. Okay, thank you. Heather Prescott also says, cast me, LOL. Oh, there you go. Compliment and then they.
Right.
B. Kim Taylor says, sounds incredible. Everybody's saying amazing, nice. We're coming to the end here, people. So give us your final shout outs. Let's see. Kathy Cato from Queens World Film Festival says, so grounded. This guy is connected to an ancient vibration.
Wow.
I am moved by him.
She's so sweet.
I agree. Naomi Ayala. Wow, long time, Naomi. Good to see you. Colin Joseph, Wolfgang Maher just joined us. Jack Fuller from the West Coast says, thanks for sharing your beautiful and gentle soul, AJ. You're such an inspiration for our current challenges in life.
Thank you. That's really very kind.
Diana, it is. Diana Prasad says, I'm also Hindu. She's down in North Carolina. Let's see. All right, so Bill Green got here a little late, I think. He said, a question, the elephant in the room in this interview might be, you're working Office Space. How was it working with Mike Judge, and did you have as much fun shooting it as we had watching it? Bill, if you watch the beginning, you'll get the second part of that question. He did. He had, but you can elaborate. But yeah, you had a ball.
That was an absolute blast. Mike Judge is a genius all the way through and through. He never ceases to inspire and make people laugh and create genius work. So yeah, all the way through, we were having a blast. I mean, everyone on that vibe so wonderfully, and everyone was really full, and that is a luxury because you don't have to work very hard, and when the bag of tricks is over and everyone's really flowing, amazing things happen. So that's how that was. And Mike is, he's incomparable. I mean, I can't really put my finger on how what an incredible experience it is to even just be near him. You sit quietly with your mouth shut and your ears open when you're with Mike, because it's nothing but good stuff.
Let's see. Manish Acharya.
Manish Acharya, a dear friend of mine who died several years ago.
Samrat Chakrabarti, can you talk about him? He's a legend.
Yeah, Manish Acharya was he was going to be probably one of the most celebrated Indian directors working with the trajectory with which he was headed. And he did a cult film that I was lucky enough to be in called The Loins of Punjab Presents, where he shot a movie we shot in Bombay, but we were supposed to be in Edison, New Jersey. But he was a tremendous director, and this movie was beyond funny. I mean, like really truly, and like the Chris Guest sort of way. And he was a real visionary, and just with this simple story, kind of got the attention of all of India, both Bollywood and cinema. You know what I mean? And the underground cinema people he kind of crossed that border, and then the movie came over here and crossed the border here too. So he was a great genius. I did his first student film at NYU because he found me, And he was like, I've been watching you off and on in these little parts, and I just got to tell you that I think that you have an essence and this kind of stuff. And I was so honored that he had bothered to look at my work. And it was in that moment that I knew that I would, do anything for him, any choice he asked me to make, however much it cost me, or however kind of uncomfortable it ever was. And whenever he did, and whenever I listened to him and watched what he had me do, I was always like, oh, that's what it was. I should have gone further. You know what I mean? So it's like, he really understood things. He was getting ready he had just signed for a 3-picture deal, which I knew that we were all going to be part of. And I was so sad, but he met with a very tragic accident. He quite literally fell off a horse and died in front of his children and his wife, who's a brilliant, brilliant artist. I just, I mourn him quite a bit, but I had an incredible time working with him.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Thanks for asking, Samrat.
Yeah, Samrat with the question. Thank you, Samrat. Bill Green says, I'm a new fan, Mr. Galinsky. I'm going to follow more of your shows. Thanks. It's all because of
Bill Green's a great man.
All right, I got a couple final questions for you, and then we're out of here.
Okay.
Are you binge watching anything right now?
Yeah, I am binge watching stuff. Look, I went through everything already. Pretty much watched everything, but right now I'm on Babylon Berlin. So I really love it. I think it's magnificent. It's deeply complex and all that. But I was watching Better Call Saul, and I was watching everything. You know what I mean? I stopped The Crown earlier, but now I found out a friend of mine is on it, and so I have to go back and watch it from the beginning. But I'm totally unpredictable with that. But I think Babylon Berlin is good, and I'm watching Ab Fab again because that's rerunning. Absolutely fabulous.
I'm writing it down. Yeah. All right. How has the quarantine, the pandemic, this whole thing?
Well, everyone's going through different things at different times, but to me, like the silver linings of it is really kind of blowing my mind. I know it's not like cool to talk about the silver linings necessarily.
Sure. No, it is cool.
The fact that a herd of elephants just went through the middle of Trivandrum, and the dolphins came back into Venice, and that you can see the mountains from Jalandhar, and all these incredible things. And my son, who's not been in school, he's 4. Watching him make all these incredible connections as a result of the quietude and being able to spend time around here. And I think one of the things that I'm really grateful for, and this has nothing to do with anything else, is that because I'm an actor, and because my wife is an actor, we're used to the erratic nature of things. And I think that as a result of that, we're probably like 20 times less stressed than a lot of my 9-to-5 friends that really rely on that kind of steady thing to keep them going. And I was like, oh wow, we're not gonna work for a while. What's new? You know what I mean? So it's like because our work and being in entertainment, it's the most resilient thing of all time. It's the most resilient business there is. It will continue to tell stories and make music and do art forever. So
Wally Green in the chat says, if I gave you something to watch, would you watch it? So I'm going to say, Wally, send it to me and I'll send it along to...
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then the last question. You're an actor, you're a director, you're a writer, you're a performer, you're a dancer, you're a musician, you're an artist. This is your life. Let's flick a switch. If Ajay Naidu is not any of those things, what would you be?
Oh, I think this is going to sound really cheesy, but I think about that a lot. And the only few things that I've ever really kind of liked have been really physical things like snowboarding or BMXing or doing these kind of things. I think it would definitely, but the other thing that I studied when I was younger that I still have an incredible love for is welding. And I haven't welded in years and years. So I might be a welder. But on the other hand, if you can think of something else to do besides what you're doing, then you should damn well do it.
Yeah, right.
Particularly as an actor, there's no reason to try to, not be all in.
Right, exactly. No matter what it is.
Right.
You're awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Love you, man. I'll see you in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll see you around. We'll have an espresso again, right?
Great, man.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Lots of love.
Peace. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. That was incredible, as usual. Another great guest. Speaking of great guests, I want to tell you who is coming next week. Tomorrow, by the way, is another potpourri variety Friday night. We're going to probably do some improvising and some scripts, so join us if you'd like to. Monday, Jody Katz is with us. Jody's a singer for the past 10 years of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and also Jody auditioned with over 1,000 young ladies about 2 years ago to become one of 3 of Cher's backup singers, and she was selected. So Jody's one of Cher's backup singers, brilliant singer, just a wonderful soul. Hank Rogers is with us Tuesday. Hank is the co-inventor of Tetris. Remember Tetris? And he lives in Hawaii, and Hank is a huge advocate for the environment and going green. He's got a timetable for all of us. That's going to be interesting Tuesday night. Wednesday night, Tuin Votin, war photographer, has been kidnapped and beaten and thrown and gets all the great photographs of all of the worst crises around the world. Really, Wednesday is going to be amazing. Tuin's going to be great. We're going to look at a lot of his photographs. Then Thursday, Andi Timoner. Andi's the only person to win Sundance Overall Award twice. She's a documentary maker. She just did her first scripted feature, and she's on to her second or third even by now, which was Mapplethorpe. She did We Live in Public, which I lived for 6 years. She's going to be with us for Thursday. And then Friday, the latest booking, Ray Boom Boom Mancini is going to be with us Friday. He's a world championship fighter. 2 years he held the world belts in the lightweight division, had some incredible fights with Hector Camacho, Macho Camacho, and Alexis Arguello, a tragic fight with Dooku Kim. He's now a sports commentator and actor, brilliant fighter out of Youngstown, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Friday. So next week's going to be wild. Tomorrow's going to be fun and kooky. Thanks for being with me, everybody. I really appreciate your questions and your patience, and I hope I got to everything. Colin, Joseph, Wolfgang, Maher, last person to join us, last person I'll say goodbye to. Peace.